So my name is Rohini Rathore, and I help individuals who really want to explore what's possible for them. And they come to me with an open mind and they're ambitious about making things better for themselves, whether it's then in their personal life or their professional life, or it could even be because they want to become better leaders in the role they already do. And increasingly, because they want money to flow and grow more freely in their lives. I spent 2 decades in wealth management before I took early retirement 10 years ago. So that world of investing and, managing money was a really familiar one to me. However, what I do now is very different. So I don't offer financial advice. I don't get remunerated for any, products that you may choose to go after in terms of your money management. I'm simply here as a coach, in my capacity as a coach, to guide and mentor people to take what's the right step for them. So, what I'd like to begin with is really, I suppose, explore the whole emotion of anxiety. And I want us to think about anxiety as this kind of, I don't know if you've ever had a sort of very overprotective or anxious parent who like is constantly trying to save you from yourself, So it's that voice that says, "Oh my God, don't do that," because what if, what if? So I think if we kind of look at anxiety as an emotion, the role of which is to prepare us for an uncertain world. There's lots of things in this world that we don't know and we will never know, and it's kind of to prepare you for what lies ahead. It's also an emotion that helps to prevent you making some horrible mistakes. So it might be that voice that tells you, wait, do you remember that last time you did that and that was a terrible mistake, so maybe you don't want to do that again. So that protection, the prevention, and preparation, those are three key things that the emotion of anxiety is really helping you to do. And financial anxiety is one aspect of that. We all have a money story, which is kind of driven by our upbringing, what our parents said about money, how they behaved with money. And I think that does shape how we actually personally view money and how we use it. Because I think getting that initial awareness of like, what is my relationship with money is a good starting point. And there's some studies that show that in the UK, 1 in 3 people claim to be financially anxious. And to me, that number probably understates the real scale of financial anxiety. And the reason I say this is, imagine somebody who on the outside looks quite wealthy. Maybe they have a nice house, they've got a job that pays them very well, they've got a sort of a fairly fancy job title, and yet they're financially anxious because they probably have a lot of debt. The house they own, is mortgaged up to the hilt, so they don't actually own it. The bank owns it, and they're paying them a mortgage. Perhaps they have children who go to a private school and the fees are extremely high. Um, Perhaps they had a double income and now their partner is no longer working. So there are so many things that, looking at their life, especially if you look at, social media, if you look at somebody's Facebook or Instagram posts, that we are never going to know. And that person is unlikely to want to admit to being anxious about money. Why? Because there could be judgment, there could be shame, there could be guilt around how they managed to get themselves into a position where they're now financially anxious. So the point I'm trying to make is that the actual scale of financial anxiety is probably way higher than any studies or research results will tell us they are. And we need to be compassionate both with ourselves and with other people, and not judge them based on what they're showing us about the outside of their life. Anxiety will often emerge when the number of unknowns becomes sort of more than your mind is capable of dealing with. What I want to sort of say to you about that is that the anxiety often isn't just directly about money. So if I was to remind you about the three key things that make us able to create the life we want. One of them is obviously money, and money is the currency with which we can, create a certain lifestyle, or we can buy the things that make us safe, comfortable, happy, etc. But the other two that are not directly linked to money, one is time, and this is your time on this earth. Secondly, it's your energy. And when I say energy, I'm talking about your life force, your health. And those two things are much more in your control in terms of how you spend your time, whether it's used well or whether it's wasted, how you are in terms of what energy you're putting out there, how your health is, etc. However, if you start to have anxieties around those things, like suddenly you start to worry about your health, or you worry about, the job that you don't enjoy anymore, then they have an indirect or even direct link with money, because it suddenly means that something is changing inside you or around you that could trigger things that you no longer control, and therefore that could impact what it means for you in terms of money. Is this making sense? Yeah. So I think what that means is that when we think about financial anxiety, we need to think more broadly about what is really going on in my life, what is in my sphere of influence that I can control or I can change, and what is everything outside of it that perhaps I have less control over.